smoking the Olivier.
Same. So, mine looks just like that. So I found a new cigar lounge that I really like. So
What were you doing in Fort Worth?
hanging out.
Huh.
We'll take little day trips every once in a while.
Okay.
And we've never really done anything in Fort Worth. And the company I work for has an office in Fort Worth. And so occasionally I'll work in that office if I have meetings with those people that day. And we'll always walk somewhere for lunch. And our firm's office in Fort Worth is really close to Sundance Square in Fort Worth. And so I was like, this is kind of a cool spot. We should come back here sometime, you know. And so we did. We had a couple appointments that morning over in Plano. And then I should definitely silence my phone. Decided to head over to Fort Worth just for the day. And so we walked around, ate some food, hung out at some places, and then there's this my wife likes to read a lot, and so anytime we can find a library type bar, we want to go to it. And so there is a bar called the Library Bar in Fort Worth. We didn't go there, but about a block away from there is this place called Thompson's. It's a bookstore on the first floor, event space on the second floor, and the third floor is a cigar lounge with a bar also. And the bookstore on the first floor also has a bar. So we walked right past that. I said, where's the cigar lounge? You went up there, and we stayed for like 4 hours. It was great. The bartender, who was also the cigar aficionado, like made great drinks, like a real mixologist type of drink, like not just making your regular drink. Like he said, try this, try that, try this. So my wife likes espresso martinis, and he made them with Coke, called them a red line, like Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And they were really good. Anyway, so a lot of good drinks. And then they have a humidor you can walk back and like look through if you want to.
How big was it?
So it's actually along the walls in a room that's not a humidor. So they're in humidor cases. Yeah. All around, like bookcases all around this room. And it's set up really nice. So it has your normal bar, but all the other seating is like couches and chairs, like a cigar lounge would be. And what they prefer to do is he's like, tell me what you like or what you're looking for today. And they like to go grab a few and let you pick. And so I was like, yeah, do that. He's like, or you can go back and look for yourself, whatever you want to do. And I said, just give me what you think you like, a good Connecticut. All right. So he comes back with this one, Olivia, Connecticut, because I told him I like these. And then he also brought back a Monte Cristo, Connecticut, and then he brought back a Davidoff.
Good choices.
Yes.
I would judge him if he didn't bring back those three, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah. The more
or a Padermo, if he'd brought a Padermo.
The more I talked to him, the more I realized this guy actually knows what he's talking about. So it was pretty neat. And I tried the Monte Cristo before. I obviously like the Olivier. So I said, well, I've never had a Davidoff, Connecticut. So let's go with that one. So cuts it, lights it,
He do it for you?
Yes.
Oh, how'd you like that?
It's all right.
Huh. Did you puff on it too?
I did.
Oh, okay. I was like, that might be a little awkward. That might be a little awkward.
But, just enjoyed it, and people would come, people would go. Good conversation, talked about everything, like local to Fort Worth, local to Texas, national, just current event topics. It was a great time. And that's one of the things I really like about a cigar lounge is similar to like a bar. You just can sit and talk to people you never met before and just kind of get their take on things, get your take on things. Kind of like what we talk about is missing from politics, because we definitely talked to a couple of people that quite liberal, right? And like would not agree with me on my take on a lot of things, but able to have a good civil conversation and just talk through it. So it was
you're
really,
not an enemy to them.
It was really an enjoyable time.
Yeah.
And I'm ready to go back. But that's Thompson's in Fort Worth. If you ever get the opportunity, check it out.
Nice little plug. Did you tell them about the pod?
I did.
I'm sure people are tired of me talking about it. It's okay. It's okay. I ventured not too far from our place, so
yeah.
Our normal.
Well, and I was telling them, like, they're like, "Where are you guys from?" I'm like, "We're not that far away. I mean, about 70 miles away, ish, 70, 75." And I said, "But we're on the east side of Dallas, and so we to go to Fort Worth, we have to drive through Dallas,
right?
And anything you're looking for in Fort Worth is in Dallas, so
right.
Plus, just our neighboring towns have good places to hang out, things like that. So, but we'll be back. It was a good time.
That sounds like a summer day trip for me.
Yeah, that's basically what it was for us.
Yeah.
Got to dinner time, we went and had some dinner, and then headed on back.
Yeah, we have become more intentional about that in our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We tried that new place up on the harbor. Started with a V.
Oh yeah,
it's pretty good. I was impressed.
I've heard good things. They have a lot of restaurants.
Yeah, I didn't even know.
Yeah, there's a lot of those in Fort Worth too.
It was a unique experience.
Okay.
They had we had this flaming queso thing. It was pretty good. It wasn't overly expensive.
Yeah, but a little pricey.
Not
okay.
I mean, it was like $65 for the two of us.
That's not bad.
No, and it was happy hour, so that helped.
Yeah, for a nice.
But I mean, if we're going on a date, I'm expecting $100.
Yeah,
that's kind of the go-to. But I've been wanting to try it. But the last couple of times I really looked at it, it was like 3 hour wait, and I'm like, this can't be that good for 3 hours.
Yeah. One thing I liked about this new place, is you walk in and you immediately smell the cigars. But they don't allow you to smoke outside of the third floor. Now they have the air purification up there and everything, but you can't. You can't. And that's probably something people don't like about cigars, is the smell does permeate, but I loved it.
That's my dream, by the way. I would love to open.
Yeah, you walk in, you smell cigars and books. Like, it's not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal at all.
I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was looking for in Savannah. Didn't find it.
Yeah.
Never found a one at all. I don't know. And, sometimes tobacco smoking laws are weird.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of hard to decide if it was more of a local thing, like to Georgia, or just didn't really have that culture.
Yeah.
And it's an expensive habit, or expensive. It can get expensive, especially if you're smoking cigars and drinking whiskey or scotch or whatever.
I wonder if I got a receipt. I don't think I did. I was curious what that Davidoff cost. Like, I know it's not like outrageous, but
I bet it was like $20.
They're pretty pricey. I just know what I paid total. I don't remember.
Yeah, I bet it was about less than $20. They're a little bit more on the pricier side than our Olivier's or Padermo's. They're probably like a $18 to $20. But they're good. I mean, I like them.
But this place, they really cater to that cigar smoking community. Like, they have, like hand rolling classes and things like that. Throughout the week, they have cigar clubs, different ones. Like, you can be like on a Tuesday night or a Thursday night cigar club. And it was really cool.
One day.
Fort Worth is not a place to sleep on, but like you say, it's not far, but maybe that's one of those reasons that we don't go there that much, is because it's like, it is a little far, but it's not too far, but it's good for a day trip.
Yeah, and I still have little kids like you, so it's kind of, if I'm taking one of those things, I'm going to try to make sure we maximize our experience.
Right.
But yeah, if you both like that, I like it. The first game 1 of the Hockey of Stars was not good. I watched the entire thing. And it was, we have it on tonight.
We do, because we care.
Because we care.
We care.
We love hockey fans.
Hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
We got, what, a 15-minute countdown?
Looks like it. 14.
No, they're tied, so the...
The Canadians and the Capitals are going to go to overtime.
They're about to go to OT.
So now that will delay the Stars game. Oh, no. Here we go.
No, yeah, we're going
to live look.
Go ahead and play it.
Over on ESPNU. I just felt like the other night when I was watching, again, I'm a Stars fan, but not a hockey fan. Is that fair? And so when I was watching it, it just looked like the Stars were a half a step slow.
Yeah.
And so, I was listening to some commentary about it today, and they seem to agree. Again, I'm not like a savant of hockey, so I can't really say too much because it's like I don't know any of the guys. I know Heiskanen and some of the other. Robertson is out. Jamie Benn, I don't even know if he plays for the Stars anymore. I like Ottinger. That's a cool name.
Yeah, I don't want it to be a quick exit. We'll see how tonight's game goes, but
they got to win this one.
Yeah.
And I know that like hockey isn't like some of the other sports where
you watch and listen to the fan. Does he not look like Gavin Dawson?
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Did they ever talk about that?
One time,
Pete DeBoer,
I don't think so.
The coach of the Stars.
But I've seen a couple of times where like there's a very big distraction going on behind the coach's bench, and it can be various things. But that always catches my attention. But other than that, I mean, right now the Stars are on an 8-game losing streak. They just showed that.
Yep. We were just saying that Pete DeBoer, the coach of the Stars, looks a lot like a local sports radio personality. It's a little uncanny. But yeah, that's our Stars Minute pod. They need to win.
They do need to win.
If not, they could be out of the playoffs by the time we record again. So, and then I definitely won't be watching until we get to the Stanley Cup, and
I won't even watch then.
I'll be like a background.
Yeah, I mean, I'll know what's going on. I'll know who's in it, but I definitely won't be tuned in.
Yeah,
it's not my gig. So, update on the regional track. We got knocked out. Had a couple kids advance to the regional finals, but we had a great season though. Like, as far as like growth of the program and making sure that we're progressing every year, this was a step in the right direction for sure. I mean, we had girls PR'd in the semifinals.
Awesome.
And still didn't make the top 8, which is,
wow.
I mean, that sucks, but
yeah.
I mean, we run in the fastest region in the state. So, and it's the most competitive. You have the Salinas and the Aubreys and the Lake Dallas and the Dallas Skyline and Carter and I mean, so in track and field, that's awesome. But it makes it tough. You have to be almost perfect in every race. But one of the cool things I got to see was a national record.
Oh wow!
Yeah, in the 300 hurdles and the 100 hurdles.
Okay.
She runs in our district actually, so I got to watch her several times this year. But I mean, she's going to run in the Olympics for sure.
That's awesome.
For sure. I mean, and you just watch her and you're like, these are elite runners, and she's beating them by, in the 100-meter hurdles, she's beating them by a second and a half. And that's fast.
Yeah. That's
fast. I mean, she's, just as an example, she runs like a 13, and everybody else behind her who's still running fast runs like a 14.5.
Whoa.
And she's running like a 13.1, 13.2. And you're like, it's not even fair. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel kind of bad for the other people who are running. Like, every single kid that ran that race PR'd. And so did she. And she just built different. I mean, she's got long legs and she's strong, and she goes to the rival school that we are competing against within our own district. So it's kind of hard to root for her. But you're like, dang, she's a good kid. You get to know those kids, especially she plays volleyball. So I see her a couple times a year. But man, she's so fast. She's gonna run the Olympic trials and whenever it comes up already. She's already been invited. But yeah, that's done. As a coach, I call it the end of season hangover, where my body just kind of goes, and I just relax. And I'll literally, like today, I didn't get up until like 9:30. I mean, and I know that sounds stupid, but like you're constantly on edge every single minute of the week, whether it's practice or planning or making sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. And so when the season finally comes to an end, it's an emotional unload. So because you're like, oh, it's finally over. And not in a bad way per se. It's just your body you just feel it. And as I've gotten more experienced, see what I did there? It takes a bigger toll on me because it's just like I recognize the heaviness of it. Yeah. When I was a younger coach, it was like it was important to me very much so, but the amount of time spent is more recognized now than I did in the past when I was a younger coach. But I'm glad it's good. I'm glad we're growing in the right direction. The last 3 years, we've had really good growth. And not only in their kids, but just in numbers too, which is good. Hopefully we can continue that. Are you paying attention to the Nico drama?
Somewhat. Clips here and there, highlights, but I'm not as invested. So
he has to be fired, especially after what he said today. So he had that little round table early last week.
Is that where he said he thought he was doing a good job?
Yeah, so he said it again today.
Because somebody asked him, why should he not be fired? Why should he not be fired? He said, I think I'm doing a great job.
Yeah, and I think I just read with something that you put on the run sheet. I hadn't seen that. I don't know how he missed, because the round table was it was very few media members, which is what I originally put on the run sheet. Well, then he had, after the end of the season, he had the post-game the post-season conference meetings today. And he said that he knew that Luka was important to the fan base, but he didn't realize how much it would affect the fan base when they traded him. And I'm like, how? Are you just that unengaged in your group of people your fan base, that you just don't care? And then he called himself the face of the franchise, him and this guy Bill. So it's like, if I'm looking at it from a business perspective, the fans don't trust him.
Yeah.
The fans don't. I mean, the players are players. I mean, I don't want to I downplayed it a little bit because of Luka, but like when you draft, like Derek Lively was drafted by the Mavericks. If they ever trade him, now he's not on Luka's caliber, it's going to be a sad day because that's one of our own. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to watch how this offseason goes. And he just still kept saying defense wins championships, wins championships, which is, I mean, he's not necessarily wrong. And I'm being very, very generous in this because I want to rant and rave, but this is not a sports podcast. But it's so frustrating that how are you so unlikable or so arrogant that you don't care that your fans hate you? And I don't know how you fix it.
Probably makes a lot of money and still going to have a job. So I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that's probably what it is.
Well, I mean, obviously.
Like, I don't know how much anybody cares about the fans. We care a lot as fans. Fans care a lot. I'm not sure anybody else cares a lot.
I mean, and I have been thinking about this a lot. Like,
players, sure, because that affects their sales. It affects their marketing ability for commercials. So it makes a big difference. But Nico's not out there trying to sell shoes.
No. Not anymore. But he is going to have to sell the team. Like, sell the product of the team. Mm-hmm. And if it comes out and is a flop next year.
Maybe he's watched Jerry Jones and says it doesn't matter.
Man. I mean, that's a very good point.
Still the most valuable sports franchise in the world. And
I don't remember if I said it last week or the week before.
With a owner and general manager who says they care but doesn't.
But Jerry will face the media at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like he'll at least face them.
Because he's the owner. And
they haven't until today. Mm-hmm. They haven't really said much. They put Jason Kidd and the players in the crosshairs of the fans. And then the fans can't even or the media couldn't really even ask them questions because they don't know. The players don't know about that kind of stuff. Neither is Jason Kidd.
Yep.
So, all right. Where do we want to start?
Pope died today.
I know.
That's a big deal. Like I say, we've talked about that whenever he was sick and in the hospital, and we talked about they thought the time was near, but they wanted to get him back to the Vatican to pass away in the Vatican. That's important to them. So that was able to happen. He had meetings. I mean, he did an Easter address, and unfortunately met with J.D. Vance. Have you seen the memes on that?
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
Well, yes and no.
I saw a funny one that said the Dalai Lama quietly cancels meeting with J.D. Vance because he's also really old, right? Maybe we don't need to meet. So, I mean, it's interesting to me anytime, like I say, I'm not British either, but whenever Queen Elizabeth died and the pomp and circumstance and the selection, all that happens to crown King Charles, like that's interesting to me. Changing of the Pope is interesting to me. I'll pay attention to it. The conclave, kind of just the stuff behind that. I'm not Catholic, but it's something that interesting I'll pay attention to, and that's really
15 days, right?
I don't know, actually.
I think they have 15. I think that's what I read today.
I know they got to get everybody there for the conclave, so that takes a minute.
And they're all over the planet, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do you become obviously, you just said you're not Catholic, so I'm asking a question you may not know the answer to, but how do you become a cardinal that's within the conclave?
I think it's hierarchy.
I'm gonna give Will a second to.
There's an entire hierarchy to it, for lack of a better way, and put it that simple. So I think there's 130 or so ish.
That's what I thought.
Around that number.
Huh. Definitely something. I'm the same. We talked about this too earlier in the a couple episodes ago. I'll be tuned in to see how it works. I always go back.
A silent ballot or secret ballot.
Yeah.
There's
already some saying that he was too progressive for the Catholic Church and that they need to go to a more conservative pope.
Yeah, and I see the exact opposite as well. So there's people that say he changed the Catholic Church forever and want to see that continue, and then people that want to see a more conservative, let the pendulum swing back the other direction,
which it is. So let's talk about Easter. Totally different in 12 months. The appearance from the government, the appearance on TV.
And just talking about government also and the Pope passing away, Trump was very gracious, just from what I saw, about the Pope passing, saying he and Melania will attend the funeral, when this previous Pope disagreed with the administration a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And was very outspoken about disagreements with the decisions the Trump administration had made. So coming from Trump, I was really relieved and pleased to see that he just said, great man, great person, so sorry he's passed, and then we'll be at the funeral, and not trying to take a swipe at the Pope's views on immigration reform, things like that where they disagreed. I haven't seen that. If it happened, I didn't see it, but I did scroll Truth Social today to see if there was anything. So, because his Easter message did, and then he did come back in truth, because that's what it's called on Truth Social. You truth something.
Oh.
And when you retweet it,
I need to get on that.
You retruth it.
Oh.
Yeah. It's interesting. Whatever. Terms matter, I guess. Because his initial Easter message was a rant against, of all people, Joe Biden and the Democrats and judges. And there's no place for that. I don't give him any grace whatsoever for that statement.
He called him a highly destructive moron.
Yes. I mean, it's immediate.
I hadn't read this until just now.
Yeah, it's immediate. Happy Easter to all. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but including Happy Easter to all. You could have stopped. There you go. There's your Easter message. Including the radical left lunatics who are fighting and scheming so hard to bring murderers, drug lords, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes on and talks about Joe Biden. He talks about judges. It's, there's all caps in here. Incompetent president. A man who had absolutely no idea what he was doing. But to him and to the person that ran and manipulated the auto pen, in parentheses, perhaps our real president, and to all the people, even we're getting to 2020 election stuff in here, in this, I don't mind. I'm not saying Trump can't say that stuff on Truth Social. I just don't want that to be in your Easter message. He did have other Easter messages.
Yes, he did.
And here's the thing. I don't have a problem. I mean, I don't like it. But I don't have a problem with this statement if you just take out the first 4 words that say Happy Easter to all. Just take that out and don't make it a part of your Easter message, and then say all these things you want to say.
Right.
That's totally fine. But keep it out of your Easter message. Now, he also did have another Easter message. He also did say, which I thought was very interesting and something that you would not have seen 5 years ago, pre-COVID. He said, Melania and I will be going to church this morning, and for all of you who are going to church or watching online, like, that's a thing.
Yeah.
You're right. So much, it's always kind of been a thing, but it's more so than it's ever been before. And so I thought that was an interesting part of one of his, I'm just going to call them tweets, but whatever they are. His statements, and like, those are fine. Those are fine. Like, so for this one, just keep the Easter message out of it, and I'm fine. But I have zero grace. I give you zero leeway on this, President Trump. Like, there's no place for that in your Easter message. Keep it out.
Well, I do think too that politics and religion intermingle all the time.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm gonna talk about in a minute. But I just wish I'm with you. I wish he'd have just left that out. Just leave it alone, because it puts it back to you, and that's not what Easter's about.
Exactly.
But I was saying, like, it's a very different than last year when Biden said, made it a like a Pride weekend on Easter weekend. That is also not a time and a place for that, for various reasons. But then also, like, this conservative morality movement that's happening is very interesting to me. So last night, I don't know if anybody even watches American Idol anymore, but it caught my attention that we record it, and then, like, if something catches our attention, we'll go back and watch it. But you can stream it on Hulu. Last night they had the Songs of Faith night on Easter night. I found that very interesting, because I personally agree with that swing of the political movement, right? I agree with that political change. I agree with that political movement. However, it does worry me a little, because what happens when we swing the other way, which is what has been happening for the last 4 years. Now, I can agree with that, but it does worry me a little. It puts a little notch on my brain, because it's like, I definitely didn't like most of what happened over the last 4 years, especially with morality, okay? I shouldn't have to fear my kid walking down a city street that I'm going to see or be a part of something that I didn't intend to be a part of, which definitely happened twice when we were out of town at a big city. We got wrapped into a drag show on accident, totally walked into it, didn't even know it was happening. I'm being truthful. Like, we were walking down off of 6th Street because we were at a volleyball tournament, and accidentally crossed paths in a drag show. And it was in the middle of the day. It was like noon on a Friday. So, like, that's not okay for me either, because, like, I should be able to walk with my kid down the street and not have to worry about that. So it's just interesting to me as we start to see the pendulum swing the other direction. How far are we going to let it go? I think this also goes back to what we talked about last week with the Epic City. They should be allowed to have that if they're following the rules and the laws of the country. So I wonder, is this going to affect all parts of society? By the way, the Canadians just beat the Washington Capitals 3-2, and the Stars are down 1-0 already.
It's our hockey minute, because we care. I take a different look at it. I think that and I hear your point. I don't disagree with your point, because I think it's, like, rational to think, when you see our faith being promoted in the public square, it's not an irrational thought to be like, that's awesome. But at the same time, if it's not our faith, like, what do I think about that? And does it make me a hypocrite if I'm fine with it for mine and not any other faith?
Yeah.
When it's being promoted in the public square or discriminated against in the public square, like we talked about last week with that Epic community. I just think that I like it because I think it gets some normalcy back. And what I mean that is, it's Easter Sunday, which is a Christian holiday. And American Idol decides to do songs of faith on a songs of Christian faith on a Christian holiday. And I think that should be normal and okay for you to go out and do. And so I like that they did that, and whoever the producers are for American Idol, which I don't know, didn't shut that down because they say, oh, we can't promote one faith out there.
Because I think 12 months ago that gets shut down.
Yeah.
Like that absolutely doesn't happen.
But it's, and I don't want to give them too much credit, and I don't want to like say everything's fixed now. It's just so wonderful. Like, I'm not saying that at all.
I don't think I'm saying that, am I?
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying with what I'm about to say.
Okay.
I'm not saying that everything is fixed and it's so wonderful and we're all great now and everything's fine. But I'm glad, and it is refreshing to see that with the return to normalcy somewhat, in this kind of direction that we're going at least in our country, where you can say, hey, it's American Idol, we sing songs, and it's going to be on Easter, so let's sing songs about the Christian faith on the biggest Christian holiday. Like some people may argue it's Christmas. I would argue Easter is more important for Christian faith. And so let's do that. And everybody's like, okay, we can do that. And like, we're not just, I don't know, I'm sure it had to go through a lot of levels of approval and whatnot, but I'm glad that tells me that this direction we're going is actually having an effect. Like it's something tangible that you can see, that you can touch, and it is a good thing.
But it also goes to tell you, and I wanted to talk about this last week, but we didn't really get to it. We got off. I was trying to remember the name of the movie because I put it in the notes. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. No. But the number one movie is that King of Kings movie. And it's about the Easter story, and it has the highest rated Rotten Tomatoes or whatever that a movie has had in quite some time. And I think this also goes back to like what people have been saying about Disney. Like, you can't go to war with families.
Yeah.
You just can't. Like, people don't want to see that. And you definitely don't want to expose. There's a small group of people that are okay with that. And it's been very publicized about how, whether you're a Christian family or not,
yeah,
you don't want your kids exposed to that.
Right.
Because their minds can't fully understand what they're talking about or seeing. And so why even put it in there? Because it's just part of the woke agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that got so much attention these last several years, but it's just because it gets a lot of attention and it's the loudest voice doesn't mean it's a voice that's representative of our country and our people and who we are. Like, there's a lot of people speaking loudly and saying that if you don't do this, it's discriminatory. And then I think like we've kind of swung the pendulum back and said, no, it's not.
It's really not.
It's really not. And, this is not really representative of how most people talk and feel. And like what I was talking about at the cigar shop at the top of the podcast, like, you get that when you talk to real people.
Right.
When you listen to the media and these loud voices, and that's kind of, I finally listened to that Douglas Murray podcast, and I have a lot of issues with that guy, like you said, and his points. Like, as someone who likes to debate, like, there's so many holes in his arguments, but I'm not going to get into that. But like, you're getting to a point where you can say, like, this went too far, and now we can return to some type of normalcy. And you can have conversations with real people, but one of the things Douglas Murray talked about on that podcast is people who are on the fringes and who get platformed and they're on the fringes. And so their voice gets a bigger megaphone when their ideas and what they stand for are actually haven't really gone through the
vetting
process for that. And so I understand his issue with that. I don't think that's, what Joe Rogan's, like, what his aim or what his goal is at all. I think when he says he invites people on that he thinks are interesting to have conversations with them, I believe that 100%.
Me too.
Haven't listened to hundreds of his podcasts.
I may have listened to more than hundreds.
Yeah.
If not thousands.
Yeah.
A thousand of them.
I listened to probably a couple hundred.
I started listening during COVID, and it was like
Yeah.
at 1,500.
Yeah. So, it's. I think that what we are seeing now is what's more representative of the country. And like when you talk to real people, when you sit in a cigar lounge and actually talk to people like who disagree with you, you can still have a conversation with real people. But if you just look at what's being on the internet or what's on the socials and what's being pushed in your algorithm or what's getting pushed out there and what's getting read, like that's not really representative.
Right.
And I think we've known that for a long time. It's just like I was saying a minute ago to kind of put a bow on my thoughts on this. It's nice to see that actually now being reflected, that change and that change back being reflected kind of in the mainstream a little bit.
We are a country built on Christian morals and values.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's debate on what that means and if the founding fathers really meant that, right? There's a lot of discussion about that. And their actions show that in some ways they were, in some ways they weren't. So I don't know if you caught this, but I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before the Bill Maher and Charlie Kirk interview came out.
Haven't seen it yet.
I'll give you a synopsis, but I'm really interested on your take of that. But it was very interesting about how Bill Maher really pushed Charlie Kirk on the Ten Commandments and how he didn't disagree, but sometimes, there are things that he disagreed with the Ten Commandments, and that's neither here nor there. But my point in this, I'll put a bow on my point as well, is 12 months ago, that conversation can't even be had.
Mm-hmm.
It can't. Bill Maher's not going to interview him, and Charlie Kirk's not going to get in the same room as Bill Maher. And so I think that those conversations are so important.
Mm-hmm.
And just like we talked about last week, Bill Maher going to the White House, like he's getting obliterated by the far left still. And that's been a week ago. And he came out this week and was like, I'm not backing down from the fact that was a bad idea. I don't think it was a bad idea. I think it was a good idea. And so I think that you've got those fringe groups that we've talked about before that are screaming so loud and their voice is not being heard. And the biggest thing that they can do now is just continue to scream and scream and scream. And eventually they're just going to get drowned out.
Well, and you have like James Carville saying that Bill Maher got duped by Trump's charm offensive. All right. Yeah. I go back to, I've had conversations with, liberals more so the last couple of weeks. A lot that's come out about the school choice issue here in Texas and educational savings accounts and vouchers and that whole talk. And also just some things that Trump has done, like we talked about last week on the pod, and some things that the Congress has done, like the SAVE Act and voter ID, things like that. And I've had these conversations, and what I keep coming back to, there's a consistent theme, and that is what I'm hearing from liberals, what I'm hearing from Democrats, and correct me if I'm wrong and someone else is not doing this besides like the Bill Maher, the Jon Stewarts that we're talking about. They're not for anything right now. They're against Trump. That's it. Like, you're not, I'm not trying to help them out in the next election, but I'm like, if this past election showed you anything, you can't win just being against somebody. Not to mention in the next presidential, he's not going to be a candidate.
Yeah.
So they're still just against Trump, but not coming out with any solutions. They're not for anything. They're just trying to run interference on what Trump and the administration, the Republican Party are doing. And that's not a strategy, and to me, that's not representative. Like, if you are doing that as a Democrat congressperson or senator, state rep, whatever it may be, you're not representing your constituents, but just trying to run an interference on the opposing party. Like, you're just doing politics. You're not doing any governing or any leading.
Right.
I mean, I have a big problem with that, and I guess I was naive. And so people will probably laugh at this when I say it, but I thought that would be around for a little bit after the election. By the time the inauguration came around, 2.5 months or so after Election Day, I thought that would begin to subside, and then we would get political discourse again about actual ideas. And we still don't have it. And I'm still a little surprised by that, and maybe I shouldn't be.
I'm really surprised that I think I'm in the same vein as that, but I'm really surprised that there hasn't been someone just come forward and take the reins of the Democratic Party. But Clint, I genuinely think they just don't know what to do.
I think it's that. I also think that, and I was thinking hard about this week, I think there's some people out there in the wings, but I think they're waiting to take their shot. I think they don't want to peak too early. I think they're letting...
That's a fair point.
I think because it seems like it's been a long time, but we're 3 months in. Like Easter was April 20th. That's 3 months after Inauguration Day. It is some time, but
it's like you said, they lost the election before that.
Yeah.
I mean, November. So it's been 5 months, almost 6. It just shocks me more than anything. Maybe not shocks, but it's just...
Did you see Biden's address?
Yeah, I can't listen to him anymore. I don't have to.
I watched it just to consume it.
I read some stuff about
some of those memes and like reels that came out afterwards are so accurate. I mean, they're trying to make fun of it, but they're so accurate in saying Joe Biden comes out and gives address to remind the country why we're all glad he's not president.
I saw that one.
Yeah, like it is so true. Like, come on, man. Like, if he would have come out and been like coherent and like been talking about ideals and his thoughts on that, it was so bad. Like, somebody's got to go sit on the beach in Delaware.
He needs to just disappear.
I'm not trying to like tell
not
somebody
be bad, but
yeah,
not in a bad way. Just take what every president has done so far.
Yes.
Just go to the background.
Yeah.
Be background noise and be George W. Bush and go paint.
Right. I have a book of his paintings. I bought it. I forget what it's called, but I have it on my bookshelf.
I did not buy it, but would you like to guess what my favorite painting of his is?
No.
The one of Dirk.
Oh, okay.
It's my favorite.
I'll have to put that up on the video.
It's a good painting.
Yeah.
While we're on the conversation about Trump, he's pushing to open up the waters on both East and West Coast to more fishing. I'm interested in this because, one, I enjoy fishing, so it kind of I am fascinated by the idea of opening this up. But two, he's the one specifically, the article I shared in the run sheet is off the North Carolina coast, off the shelf there. If you watch any of the fishing shows, that's a big, there's like quotas that can be met and things that are established there. But then he's also opening a big area just south or around the Hawaiian Islands that are protected. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't want to hurt business, but then also overfishing is also not a good thing. Like, you're talking about the entire ecosystem of the ocean being affected if you overfish the population. And what I find interesting is one of the things that I read when I was in college, one of the books, it was like the ecology of the colonies. And it talked about how there was so much life in the waters of the Chesapeake Bay that you literally didn't have to like put a hook in the water. You could just put your hand in and the fish would come right to your hands. And how it was just such a vibrant ecology. And then by the time we get to the Civil War, it's been so overfished that the population was almost gone completely. And it's taken 150 years to get that back to where it is today. And so I worry that if we go back to the way that we fished it for up until the 70s and 80s, that you're going to be detrimental to it again.
Yeah.
So that's a little like, hey, keep that in your brain. Keep an eye on that thing for me. And I don't know how much you pay attention to that or if you do at all, but it's the first time I've heard a cricket.
We have a cricket. Well, it's going to be some fun editing, getting the background noise out of that. Haven't had to deal with that yet. And I'm not going to try to go find it.
That would be an adventure. That would be fun for the Twitch.
It would. Cricket finding.
But Twitch did say that, back on what we were talking about a while ago about the fringes, is social media is not real life.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with that wholeheartedly. Oh, the Dallas Stars are on a power play.
Still 1-0.
The Avalanche have taken 10 shots and the Stars have taken 6. we're not great commentators of hockey.
We're not.
I do like it, though, when they put the little name above their head so I can see who it is. Especially for a guy who doesn't know much about hockey. Like, oh, that's Johnson. Oh, see, Harvey.
Yep.
Yeah. And then it makes it more like a game. But then I
think video games created that, don't you think?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. Pause. I'm going to try to kill a cricket.
Okay. We'll stop talking. We just scored. Power play goal.
We'll bring it back with that.
Goal for the Dallas Stars with 53.1 seconds on a power play. 1-1. We look a little faster on the ice tonight.
Man, look at how I'm cheering. See, I want to be there.
Me too.
Man, it is fun to go to hockey games. Not as fun to watch them on TV. But
let's see what happened here. Ooh, wide open. Deflected off of the right pad of the goalie into the net.
Mm-hmm. I did not.
Twitch just said Clint opened up a clip on that cricket. It sounded like.
Well, yeah. I don't hear the cricket anymore.
He did. He gone.
I hope so. He might come back.
He
probably is just trying to enjoy the podcast, or he likes cigars.
Maybe.
And he's like, listen, I was just trying to get a cigar and listen to a podcast, but I guess I'm not welcome. He got deported.
Okay, great transition. I do not understand why these guys are supporting this guy so much.
Because they're against Trump. That's it. I mean, it's literally like...
Uh-oh. Oh, breakaway. He missed it.
It's exciting. Hockey is exciting. Still
not exciting. Not exciting for the listeners.
It's not. No. Yeah, we should probably stop doing that. None of it makes sense. But if you just say, oh, yeah, they're just against Trump. Like, they found this one thing. Because it is...
The cricket wanted a puff pass.
It's... like our Twitch said last week, they are fighting against one of his hallmarks of the campaign. Right? And so they can find any type of inroad. So they're going to beat this thing to death until they get something else. It's ridiculous.
But some of the... I'll go back to what we also talked about.
The memes I'm seeing now from Democrats and liberals are saying that we're not deporting people to their countries. We're actually putting them in concentration camps. There's no difference. They're drawing a line of comparison, saying it's apples and apples.
That's dumb.
Of the Nazis putting people in concentration camps.
That's dumb.
Yes. Completely dumb. But you've got to find something that Trump did that you're against, and then you've got to exaggerate it. And you got to beat that thing until you get the next thing. That is their whole game plan. That's what it has been.
I recognize that.
How do they not see it's not working?
I don't know.
I
don't know. And the judges that they're using to do this apparently are appointed within 3 months of Biden.
I know.
Getting
Did you see
office.
Caroline Leavitt's press conference
No.
where she brought the mom?
No.
Yes. Oh my, she is amazing.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the senator. You're talking about the press secretary.
Yes.
And the mom of the murdered daughter.
She's
and there were no, they didn't have a response to that.
And
by the way, she might be one of his best picks.
Yes. Listen, your press secretary matters a lot. W. Bush had two great ones.
Agreed.
Ari Fleischer and Dana Perino. They make or break your entire administration's message. Obviously the message, but really your administration's effectiveness, because they communicate so well and they can push back so well. But Caroline Leavitt brings on this mom whose daughter was murdered by an illegal immigrant in the country illegally, who was captured and released in the country and not deported. Tells her story. The mother pleads with the press just to tell the truth about how violent this is, if they're not just the Maryland man.
Right.
Or
the family man.
Yeah.
And now there's court documents that say he beat his wife.
Right.
Allegedly.
Yeah. I mean, it's in the complaint. And it says, anybody got any questions? And I get some of that's theater. And I don't think any member of the press is going to question a grieving mother about that. But at the same time, it proves a point. Like, this is what is going on. And so, no, to answer your question, they're against Trump. They're going to exaggerate it, and they're going to beat that dead horse until they find something else. That's it.
It's so dumb.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
And it just makes it's bad optics.
And if I was a Democrat, if I was a liberal, I think it would feel like it would bother me. I feel like there's a lot of, and I think this is why it will hurt them in the election. I think there's a lot of people who are liberal, who are Democrat, sitting back watching this happen and saying, like, shut up. Like, you're missing, like,
the center left people.
Yeah, you're not.
Like a Bill Maher.
Yeah, you're not representing me and my interests. Like, go do something. Don't just be against Trump. But that's a pipe dream right now.
So while we're talking about that, well, not a smooth transition, but the murder of the high school student who happened at the track meet, boy, that has been theater locally. I don't know how much you've been paying attention to that.
I paid a lot of attention to that.
You have?
Yeah.
So I want to kind of, I'll backtrack. High school track meet, 2 rival schools. A white gentleman goes into his team's tent. There's a black African-American gentleman sitting in there. He asks him to move. Altercation happens. There's still some police work to be done on what exactly the exchange was. I want to be clear. It's not sure if he punched the kid, if not, and then he gets the white kid gets stabbed in the heart with a knife. Immediately, there was a social media storm on both sides.
Right.
Very hard to determine what was true and what was not. Lots of fake accounts, lots of fake police accounts, lots of deciphering what is true and what is not. This week, the family of the student who committed the crime held a press conference. The dad of the student who was murdered showed up.
Right.
And he was escorted out by security.
Yeah, they didn't start the press conference until they got him out.
So, 2 thoughts on that point. One, he was asked to leave a place where he was not where he was not welcome, and he didn't murder anybody. The second thing is now it's not a GoFundMe, it's something different.
Give, send, go.
Give, send, go.
Because the reason, like, there was a GoFundMe, but they took it down. Give, send, go is no restrictions, and they're also not political. There's a lot of the January 6th people who had give, send, go accounts. It's like their thing is they don't. If you want to give money to a cause, give money to a cause. They're not going to shut it down or anything. They have no rules, basically. There's probably some rules, but essentially there's no rules. So
his legal fund was started. They picked a lawyer. I don't remember the guy's name, but he also has somewhat of a rap sheet. The lawyer starts off by basically blaming the school.
Yeah, it was bad.
Then went on a tirade of other things. And Jiminy Cricket is back, by the way.
Yes. Coming back.
And it just was a bad look all the way across. And allegedly they've used these funds to buy a house, which may or may not be true. It's kind of hard to determine.
Yeah, the mom got up there and said it's
not
completely untrue. They haven't even used any of the funds yet.
And then allegedly he got a car. Don't know if that's true or not.
Don't know. And I don't know, like, the mom got up at the press conference, and here's my taking a step back and trying to take a look at this. The mom got up at the press conference and said, we haven't used a single dime of these funds yet. We haven't. In fact, it takes 7 days to withdraw them. Apparently the fund hadn't even been around that long yet.
Right.
And so she said the person who owns Give, Send, Go or whatever has confirmed this. I didn't see that. Didn't look for it either. I haven't seen any pushback to her once she said that. So that tells me, I don't know, you don't know, no one knows, that the whole, they bought him a new house, they got him a new car. Like, but also,
it's an agenda.
It's probably not true because she just flat out squashed it or said it wasn't true, and nobody really pushed back on it or provided any evidence or anything that it was true.
Yeah.
So, and plus there's been so much stuff faked here, I'm not sure what I'd believe. But at the same time, taking a step back from all of that, I don't care if they did. If you give money to somebody through Give, Send, Go, or whatever, like they're not bound to use that for whatever you want them to use it for. Now, maybe there are giving platforms where you can do that, but they're not bound to that. So if you're going to give money to someone for whatever cause it may be, like you're just giving them that money.
Right.
Anytime somebody sets a GoFundMe up, I've seen people set up GoFundMes for really odd stuff. Like we know some people who, and it worked, so more power to them, just needed a new car. I'm like, set up a GoFundMe to get a new vehicle, and they got one. Cool, whatever. Like some people have like a big problem with that, but like at least these people who did that said, hey, we're doing a GoFundMe because we need a new car. And like they got money for it. So like
never thought about that before.
I know, it makes you think like, maybe I should try this. But I've seen people set up GoFundMes because like my student loans are just crazy, like, or I have too much debt, and like all these types of things like that, and it's work. And so like if you're setting up a Give, Send, Go, GoFundMe, whatever it may be, you can't be mad about what they're spending it on. And if you didn't donate to it, don't be mad about what they spend it on. Like you can talk about, I'm not going to say nobody can talk about, I'm not trying to be Douglas Murray over here, you know, to bring that full circle. But like really, people can do what they want to with their own money.
Here's my problem with the whole situation. Placing the blame on the school is not okay to me, because he was like, well, it was raining really hard. Well, those rules are set by the state. Like, and maybe they should have taken him to the buses. Okay, but who knows?
But the other school had a tent.
Yeah, there's a lot of scenarios that play into that. Like, you have to wait 30 minutes. Like, so if there's lightning, or if it's raining and there's no lightning, and there's a radar app that all school districts use. Mm-hmm. And there's a little circle, and if lightning strikes within that, you have 30 minutes. And then if another lightning, it resets and it resets and it resets. And then there's certain restrictions that you have to follow that are set by the state. Mm-hmm. There's regulations and all that. So they were following the rules of the state. Mm-hmm. So that's mute to me. You can't. This is not the school's fault. You can't place the blame on.
None of that excuses having a knife in your backpack and stabbing somebody anyway.
And so now it's come out too that apparently he was not supposed to be there, or maybe he was, but he was skipping school. There's just a lot of things that are going to come out with this trial, and it's going to get forgotten. And this is going to get pushed into the weeds, and you'll hear about something that happens. I mean, he said he did it. Like when they arrested him, the official police documents that are on reputable websites, local news stations, say you found who you're looking for.
And the police in their press conferences have said he immediately admitted to doing it.
Correct. So he's going to be found guilty. Allegedly. I think he will be.
Yeah. But it only takes one juror.
That's true. So
that's why they're making the case. I mean, that's what they're doing.
And I just think too, it's crazy to me that they lowered his bond. And I don't exactly understand all of like the rules about a bond and how that all exactly works and who sets it and who doesn't. But sometimes you see these bonds and you're like, why is that one so high versus another one that's not?
A lot of subjectivity to that, because there was a school shooting, and that particular person, Wilmer Hutchins High School, south of Dallas, his bond was $600,000 and injured 5 people, 1 critical, maybe 5 or 6. I don't remember the exact number.
Hold on. To the Twitch person, did they run it at the same meet? So Texas Mile Split had them both in the 100-meter dash. So I wonder if they raced against each other. I hadn't even looked that far. Huh.
Interesting.
Wonder if one won and one didn't. It just goes back to two.
I think, like we established this when we first talked about it before, like they're two rival schools. Like they have beef to begin with.
Correct. And
you got to know. You got to know if you're going to go sit under your rival school's tent, there's some people over there that are going to have an issue with that. But it went from what would have been a fight to a murder. And like there's one person responsible for that. and that's the person on trial for murder.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of noise, and there's going to be a lot of other stories and anecdotes, and what about this, and what about that? Like, all of it just doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I think if the prosecution makes that case to the jury, that none of these ancillary stories really matter. Like, this was something that was a physical altercation between two high school students that should have been a fist fight or pushing and shoving and then gets broken up or whatever, that turned into a murder because the assailant, one student, brought a knife in their backpack and stabbed a kid. Like, that's what it all boils down to for me, and nothing in any of the stories that I've heard this week changed that.
Both athletes qualified in the finals, so they would have run in the second day of the meet.
But I don't have an issue with the bond being dropped, and here's why. I don't know. I'm probably 70-30 on it. 70%, I don't care. What is bond? Bond keeps you in jail if you're a threat to other people or a flight risk.
A threat to society. And he's not going to be.
And
I mean, he may be a threat, but he's not a flight risk.
I don't think he's going to be stabbing anybody else. And I don't think he's a flight risk. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the guy. And I think that's what the judge is assessing. And so there's a lot that comes out about this judge and people who want to primary the judge and run against the judge and all this kind of stuff that did it. But at the end of the day, like, bond doesn't establish guilt or innocence. It just establishes, are you going to run and not show up for your trial? Or are you going to hurt somebody else while you're out?
Okay. You've convinced me the other way. It seems like a heinous crime, and $250,000 doesn't seem like enough money.
That's true. And I think some people may look at bond and be like, for what they did. And I think a lot of judges said it that way.
Yeah.
And I think that's the initial set of $1 million was probably reaction to, this is a heinous crime and like this shouldn't have happened and this is a big escalation. But I don't have a huge issue with that. But based on what we've seen, the evidence that we have as non-experts who weren't there, like, it looks like he should be convicted.
Yeah.
But
well, and I think too the fact that the Metcalf family's house has been swatted.
Yeah.
It was done again today. So a second time it's been swatted. You want to explain what that means? Because
no, it's when somebody calls in a threat.
Yeah.
A major threat. Like, there's somebody in there hurting people or whatever, and so the police show up, basically door kickers, to come in and save the day. And, like, in the middle of the night, if my door gets kicked in, I'm grabbing my gun and I'm going to the door, which could mean my death.
Right.
If there's police officers on the other side of the door.
Which has happened.
And yes, which has happened. And, you know, they think there's a threat there. There's not. It's a fake call to 911 or whatever. And as soon as they kick that door open, they see an adult male coming at them with a firearm. Like, what are they going to do?
Right. They're
going to defend themselves as police officers, which they're supposed to do.
Right.
And so it's like one of these tragic things where everybody's doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Correct.
And then some innocent person, you know, a dad, a mom, or child loses their life because of it. And so it's how you can effectively, it's like putting a hit out on someone and using the police to do it.
Right. On a sidebar conversation, did you see in Houston that a 911 operator was arrested for turning away 800 calls over like a 2-week span? And the one that got her fired is they called in, the wife died because they didn't get a response quick enough, and her response was, "I'm just tired of talking. You need to call somebody else," and hung up on him.
Oh my jeez!
You're a 911 operator, and you don't feel like talking to people?
My issue is not. I mean, I have an issue with that person. I have an issue with that person's supervisor. Like, you've got to be actively
monitoring all of it.
Either that person wasn't a fit for the job to begin with, and I have no idea what story you're talking about. I haven't had time to think about this, but either that person wasn't fit for the job at the beginning, or they were burned out, and like their supervisor, their coach, or somebody needed to notice that and pull them.
So one of the things that I just happen to know, a good friend of mine is a 911 operator manager. Like, he trains people for it. And he'll tell you, like, it's one of the most stressful jobs on the planet.
Yeah.
And you're always dealing with people on their worst day, and there's not anything you can do about it. And he was like, at least a police officer, they're there to offer help. And he's like, it takes a mental toll on you.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a mental toll. But he said with the previous administration, from top to bottom, and he works locally here in Texas, DEI is just horrible because you would have to hire people based on DEI regulations, not who was the best candidate. And he said we would get people in here who would fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'd write them up, and then I would be the one called into the office for writing up this person who fell asleep while trying to be a 911 operator.
It's crazy.
And he was like, it's exhausting. It literally is exhausting. He told me, if I wasn't a year away from retirement, I would have quit.
Mm-hmm.
I would quit.
Yeah.
He was like, but now my pension is effective. Yeah. And he was like, I've taken less of a role, so I don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
And it was a fascinating conversation to have, because it was like, you have a situation like this one with Metcalf and their family being swatted, and what guilt do you feel? I mean, all the way across the board. Mm-hmm. It's just such a terrible tragedy. And it just goes back, kind of wrapping up the entire conversation. It's just this pendulum swinging the other way. There's always going to be evil in the planet.
Right.
There's always evil. And we can do whatever we want, but ultimately there's a lot more at play than what we care to talk about or care to admit sometimes. Mm-hmm. And it's, Rogan had on, Ron White. They kept talking about, did you listen to it? Yeah. One of the things that kind of stuck out to me, and I talked to Will about this a little bit too the other day, it was like Joe kept talking about how, the universe kept bringing us here, blah, blah, blah. Like, but he won't ever admit that, like, maybe there's a higher power involved in this. Like, maybe there's a reason.
One of the things that I enjoy as a Christian listening to Joe Rogan, because he'll have people on that will be flat out explaining a story how the Bible explains something. They're like, I just don't know, man.
Yeah.
He had a guy on talking about, we know, like, the entire earth was flooded. They call it the driest events, like that guy that was on. He's been on a couple times, and it's like, you know, like,
it happened. We know.
And it's like you're literally just proving that. But it's interesting to hear, like, as a Christian, everything you hear and see is through that lens, right? So, but it's, I listen to that one. That's a good one.
And it's just, it makes me sad for people who don't have that hope.
Yeah.
Because it's very scary. It's very scary.
They're seeing things in the world and just don't have anything to anchor it to.
Correct. Transition. House Bill 2. I don't want to spend a ton of time. We kind of texted back and forth about it, how you had a couple of thoughts on it. I have a couple of thoughts on it. It passed the House. It's going to go to the Senate. Ken Paxton, is that who I'm trying to think of?
Yes.
Has said that he is for it, so it looks like it'll
the Senate will pass it.
Senate will pass it. There will be some amendments to it from both sides because it has to go to committee, back to committee on both sides. I have a couple of thoughts about this. First off, our local representative, Brent Money, I'm gonna keep it nice because I'm gonna continue to invite him onto the podcast and come and talk to us because I want to hear, like, your thoughts on this, because you come off as just so bad at this, just so bad as a politician, so bad at speaking in public.
It's a communication,
it's so bad. And then you say that you're supporting of education to everyone's face, and then your voting record goes the opposite. I think it was like 144-4, and he was one of the 4 that voted against it.
Yeah.
So here's where I'm going with this. I kind of want to, my notes are kind of stay calm, stay the course. If you're a teacher out there that listens, I know we have a lot of people that are in education that listen, or at least they tell me they listen. It's going to be okay. First off, we're going to continue to have public schools. My initial thought on the ESAs is we've always had parent choice. We've always had that. You can choose to put your kid in whatever school you can want. You can homeschool your kid. You can, do whatever. There's multiple avenues post-COVID, especially, that are available to you to do. One of my thoughts is like, when does parent choice stop? Okay. So, you can tell me if I'm wrong. I'm really open to hearing your thought on this because I want to know what you think, because today, Brent Money this week, he's going to present a bill about abortion because he's against it, which so am I. but then you vote against something that's a choice of the people.
Mm-hmm.
So when is it okay for the government to intervene in something, and when is it not? Because if you go based on his voting record, or most Republican voting records, you're going to be against abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But you support school choice.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying?
I think the point I'm hearing is that they're supporting school choice on the parents having the freedom to decide that for their children.
So then is it not a woman's right to choose what she wants to do?
No, because I think like us, like I'm going to defend him on that one. Because
Okay.
like us, I think they see that as taking of a life.
Okay.
Right? So I think that's how they draw that bridge. I think they could make a strong case for coming down on both sides of that.
I'm not saying I disagree with that.
Right,
Like, I agree with
exactly.
what you're saying.
Exactly.
Like, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I understand that. But you can't continue to talk about parent and choice and,
as
and all
being
that.
the be all end all.
Correct.
Yeah,
That's my point.
That's the point, is that the ESAs, vouchers, whatever you want to call them, the biggest push and support for that is just that parents' choice is the be all end all for everything.
Right.
And I agree with you, it's not.
It's just way more complicated than that.
Yeah.
As
there's
is
more that goes
abortion.
into it. Yeah.
As is abortion. It's so complicated. And you can't continue to die on that hill, because that's not what you're doing. That's not what you're doing. And I realize Will is going to hate this conversation. He does not agree with this at all. And he even put back apples and oranges. And I recognize that flaw in my argument. Okay.
Yeah.
I recognize that. However, that's the only message that they're sending, right? When you have, and there's been Republicans that have come out and said 80% of my constituents don't agree with this.
That's true.
Okay. So then what are you telling the people who voted and put you in office?
Mm-hmm. They do not have a Politico look at their.
They do not. And so my other thing is, oh my gosh, we missed 2 goals. It's 2-2.
2-2.
Avalanche 2, the Stars 2.
More hockey commentary on the podcast live.
So my point in saying that is one, during the debate about House Bill 2, there was an amendment presented to put it up to the ballot, to put ESAs on the ballot. In my opinion, it would have failed. That's why they don't want to do that.
Yes.
So it just comes off as fake to me. It comes off as this was what we wanted as the Republican Party, and this is what we're going to do, and you have no say in it at all.
There have been, and I, some background on that. If someone is just now, and I don't think there's a lot of people that are invested in this who are just now paying attention to it, by the way, but if you are just now paying attention to it, this has been something that the Republican Party has wanted to do session after session after session, which is it's only every other year.
Yeah, it's been about a decade.
And so when it doesn't happen, then the governor is calling them into special session and special session and special session, calling the representatives back and trying to get it done. It just hasn't happened yet. So there is history there, but I have two really big picture takes on it. I'm married to an educator. I am not one. So this is my big picture take on all of it. If you are one of the biggest things I have against it, and if you are someone who's like, I'm just conservative and that's why I support this, it is $10,000 per kid. Okay? To pay $10,000 in school tax using my local school's tax rate, which is lower than it has been, but we're talking not by much. Your home value on the tax rolls would have to be $900,000 after your homestead exemption to pay $10,000 in school tax. So people say, we just want our money back. You're not getting your money back. You're getting your money and somebody else's money back.
Right.
You're getting more money than you're putting in. That is a government handout. Like a government handout from other taxpayers that taxes you did not pay are going to pay for your kid's private school education. Like, as a actual conservative, you should have a big problem with that. If you wanted to come in and say, hey, just give me my school tax dollars I paid back, I have a much less problem with that. Now I still think it fails the test of, as a society, we say that an educated public is a good thing. And so as a society, we put money forth to have an educated public because business owners who hire people want them to be able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide, and be able to read and be able to critically think. And we're not going to have the discussion on whether that's being taught in schools. That's a moot point. But as a society, having an educated public is a good thing. We've decided that. But if you're not just getting your money back, you're getting your money and other people's tax money back. Unless you are one of these people that are paying, and that's just one kid.
Right.
If you got a couple of them, then your house has to be $1.7 million on the tax rolls.
Correct.
For 2 kids, for you to
Correct.
pay enough in school tax to get that money. So as a conservative, that's the problem I have with it. On the flip side of things, as another argument, many of the educators and everything who are saying like this is the doom of schools and it's going to pull money out of public education, as the bill is written today, I don't think that amount of money is going to pull money out of public education, but it opens the door, could be expanded, and I think that could be detrimental and pull money from public education. As it is today, I don't think that's when everything gets shaken out and it all comes out in the wash, I don't think that's actually going to happen. But along the same vein is it really hinders the state's ability to lower property taxes. Because what it's doing is it's not pulling money out of education, it's pulling money from the rainy day fund, which
Right.
as a state we tax people so much on property taxes, we have a huge rainy day fund sitting up there. Like you remove the ability to get actual property tax relief if you start spending that money. So here's the thing. You can't say I'm 100% conservative and I'm everything on fiscally conservative on this and support this. It doesn't math. It doesn't work out. So you can. I just think that you're getting a government handout, and I'd love for someone to explain it to me differently, how you're not, if you're going to get $10,000 per kid.
I can't. And it's and school finance is extremely complicated.
Right.
And so.
And just for apples and apples, I think I should have looked this up because we've talked about this a couple times. So in the district that my kids go to and that I pay school taxes into, our school tax rate is like 1.2552%. Okay. I think it caps at like 1.54.
Something in that range.
So if you just want to go, you can go look up whatever your school's tax rate is. It's going to be either the numbers I just gave, or it could be, 0.30% higher.
Correct.
Is the max that it could be. So you're still probably not paying that much in school tax.
No, you're not. It comes off as disingenuous on all the way around.
Right.
All the way around. And my other thing is the people out there who are screaming, oh, we're going to remember this, but you won't.
Yeah.
You won't remember this. You may remember it, but guess what?
Not enough.
But
some will, but not enough.
Are you going to vote for a Democrat?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
No, the answer is no.
Yeah, not enough. Some will.
Yeah.
And some have.
But we had that opportunity in our local district with Brent Money. And the lady that ran against him they were in the two in the same. Mm-hmm. But there were others.
We have different representatives, by the way.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
We live in the same town.
No, we have different representatives.
Huh.
Mine's Katrina Pearson, who voted the same way.
Oh, okay. Well,
and she primaried Justin Holland,
who was
against this.
Yes.
Who supported teachers.
Correct.
And she was also a national spokesperson for Trump in his 2016 campaign. She has a lot of national notoriety, but she primaried Justin Holland and went in and voted for this just as she had been put in place to do. And I don't know in her district, if you put it to a vote, how many people would be for or against it, but that was the main issue that she came forward with to run against the incumbent. And she did win the race.
Yeah.
But I think there's a lot of people who support school choice who don't know the weeds of it and don't really understand it.
But it's frustrating because 5 years ago last week, school shut down for the entire year, for the remainder of the year. And it's flipped almost like we've become the enemy of the state. Mm-hmm. I watched not a documentary, but it's like a TikTok series on a lady who came from California, and she was a teacher in California, and she comes to Texas, and she just talks about how difficult it is. Mm-hmm. And some of the things that she made a point, I'm like, oh, well, I just do that. Like, I don't, like, one of the things she was talking about was like the drills that we have to do.
Yeah.
Fire drills, evacuation drills, active shooter drills, all that stuff. She was like, it literally gave me anxiety to do any of those drills. I'm like, wow, I kind of grew up here, so I guess I'm just kind of used to it. I don't really think about that. But then she was also talking about like the state tests. Like, she was in a more rural area of the Houston suburb. Mm-hmm. And she was just talking about how like there was zero support. Like, there was a website given to her and she was expected to prepare her lessons and do everything from that. And I'm like, every teacher in the state does that. Mm-hmm. That's not. And she was like, no, like, it was just shocking to her that she had to do that. The other thing she went into is how there is no union. Like, you can't call if you have an issue within your district, you can't call your local union rep and say, hey, what are my options here? Mm-hmm. You can't do that. Well, then she hopped into health insurance and she talked about how terrible that is. You're not technically a state employee because you don't get state insurance. It's still run at the local level. There's just and she just eventually, now again, consider where she was coming from. Mm-hmm. But she just was shining light on all of the different things that teachers deal with on a daily basis. And it was just kind of a eye opener for me, because it was like, oh man, that's just stuff that we do. And I showed my wife and she was like, well, yeah, that's what, that's just how it is. And I don't know how you fix that with, when COVID happened, we were expected to adjust like that.
Yep.
And we thought we were going to have to give a state test.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't until the first week of May that they told I may have my dates wrong, but the first month at least, they told us we were still going to have to give that state test. And I was a tested subject at the time. Mm-hmm. I'm full panic because I can't monitor these kids. I don't know how, and so we were expected to prepare them for it. And so it just is interesting as we continue down this path of with this being an education session. I was trying to see the score. With this education session, how is this all going to play out? Now, they did pass another bill. House Bill 6 is basically like the school's Bill of Rights of Discipline, Bill of Rights. Some of this is repealing some things that happened that they put out in, I think it was 18. I could have my dates wrong, but hold on just a second. Oh, they said TCTA serves as for that purpose, but it's still not a union. It's an association. No. It's different. They'll give you an attorney representation. Right, but they can't go fight for wages. They can't go fight for better health insurance. Mm-hmm. They can't do things that a union would do. Like, she also talked about the hours that she worked. Mm-hmm. Like, I wasn't even in school on Friday, and I have a little app that keeps track of like how often I work. Yeah. I still put in 45 hours. Uh-huh. Like, and I wasn't even on the campus on Friday. It's just like people don't realize the amount of hours. But that's kind of a side point. But it's just like, I forgot where I was going. Oh, the Bill of Rights. Like, a lot of the things that came out pre-COVID, especially like with vaping, one of the bills that came out with vaping is like it can be an automatic placement of DAP. Right. And so now they're opening it up to out of school suspension. Mm-hmm. And so that's a pendulum swing away from what we've done in the past. What I saw was more adding ability to suspend kids, expel kids, and send them to DAP for reasons they couldn't do before. Correct. Which I think is great because, like, it is, and not speaking, I don't even remember any specific instances, but, like, you've got kids doing stuff that they need to be gone. Mm-hmm. And because of, and I'm speaking completely as a layman here, but I feel like because of the free and whatever, everybody gets a free something, public education, whatever law that is. Correct. It's within the Constitution of Texas. Yes. They have just hamstrung themselves with being able to say, like, this kid doesn't need to be here right now. And the teacher spends all of their time just dealing with this one kid instead of actually being able to teach the other kids in the classroom. And I think if you brought any parent into that classroom, any voter, any taxpayer, and showed them those situations, they'd be like, no, this kid needs, this one kid is keeping the other 25 from learning anything. And it's happening every single day. And administration saying, well, we can't do anything about that. And I'm not speaking to anything specific at all, but
like those types of things, I think from what I've read, just cursory on this law, gives a little more freedom for the administration, for the district to handle, to help bring some common sense back to that.
So the Twitch just brought up the fact that, but the schools are still penalized for sending too many students to DAP.
Yeah.
They're dinged in their TARP report, the TAPER report, and then free and appropriate public education.
Yeah.
So, I believe that the percentages change with this bill, House Bill 6. I've read through most of it, and I believe the percentages change of what percentages you are allowed to send. The Twitch can maybe tell me if I'm wrong about that, but the thing is though is there has to be some change, and this is a start. Mm-hmm. It's like what we've talked about with Trump many times. These are baby steps. This is one of the many baby steps that I still believe are to come. I think that the Senate Bill 26 is going to be put out there. That's the whole teacher raises. Mm-hmm. This bill does give 40% of the increase to teachers and other educators. So as a pay increase. But like some of the problems will be is like what happens if your district pays more than the state minimum? Mm-hmm. How are they going to track that?
Yeah.
I don't know how that's exactly going to work. We'll see how it all plays out, but
I think it's going to be, I thought about this some and talked with a couple educators about this, and I think that the way the districts will handle it will be case by case, which is, I'm giving you a real accountant answer. We always say it depends. Anytime we get to ask a question, which is a valid answer. But I think that there are going to be some districts that say, hey, we're already doing it, so we're not going to increase anything. And I think some districts will say, well, we're going to add that to our baseline and keep our same increases on top of that. And I think that smarter districts and a lot of districts will go towards that latter, saying like the increase from the state will be our new baseline and we'll still have additional increases on top of that. Because, and so not we, but when we talk about our little dot plot of where we are on things, like I'm very fiscally conservative, like economically and with money. And I believe in the marketplace. And right now the marketplace is telling you that teachers don't make enough.
Right.
That's why there's not enough of them there. And that's why you have non-certified teachers and long-term subs like teaching classes because you don't have enough to hire. Like if you're a conservative and you're a fiscal conservative, like the marketplace is telling you teachers don't make enough right now because you don't have enough of them.
Right.
If a bunch of teachers want to get out and say we need pay raises and we're not making enough money, but there's plenty of teachers to go out there and hire, then the marketplace is saying then compensation is set where it should be. But it's not. So I think that districts, if they come in and try to say, well, we're already paying above this standard, so we're not going to make any changes, those are the ones, well, I mean, all of your teachers are about to leave.
Right.
And so I don't think they're going to do that, but that's just, again, my very anecdotal from the outside looking in type of thoughts on that.
And so one of the things that the bill does is it does away with the uncertified long-term sub position.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I believe by 2029, it has to be less than 5%. Mm-hmm. So again, you're talking about the marketplace. And then the other thing that confuses me too is when Abbott put out that survey or got that committee together to find out the things that they needed to do to fix the education, none of them were like, hey, let's have school vouchers.
Yeah.
They were all school discipline, which they are working on that, and pay teachers more.
Yeah.
And then there was like better support, more training, things along those lines that were down towards like the bottom 5 through 8. But the top 2 were school discipline and pay the teachers. And you're like giving a grain of rice when you're starving.
Yeah, and it year after year after year, nothing has happened. So you have a lot of backlog. Like you have industries that have given huge raises to their personnel through COVID. Like compensation increased dramatically.
Right.
Did not for teachers. And let's pull the curtain back a little bit on that long-term sub deal, because I may have personal experience with this, or I may just be speaking anecdotally. I don't know. I'm not going to commit. But what I will say is that when someone is a long-term sub and not a certified teacher, then there has to be another certified teacher that's their teacher of record.
Correct.
And that teacher, like this long-term sub, in some cases, allegedly, can't even make their own copies. They can't put grades in. They can't do that stuff. So some other teacher has their whole entire caseload of all of their kids, however many students they have that they teach, whether they're secondary or elementary, whatever it may be. And they also have this whole set for however many of the long-term subs that are under them. Could be more than one. that they're having to also put in all the grades for, also go like make the copies for, and do all of the administrative tasks that long-term sub's not allowed to do because they're not a certified teacher. Like, so then you are not only bringing in someone because you're not paying enough to bring in a certified teacher, but then your teachers who are certified, who still aren't getting a pay raise and aren't doing enough, are doing double and triple duty. Like, anyone, like, just talk to a teacher. I'm just going to put a bow on it and just say, talk to a real teacher and hear these stories and say, would I do that at my job? Like, and not for a short time. Would I do that year after year after year at my job and continue to do it if like there was no end in sight and the administration and our state leadership weren't doing anything to fix it?
And here's my other thing too, is I have a lot of, like I've had this conversation with Will too. Like, I could be the best teacher in the state and I'm still getting paid the same as the worst teacher in the state.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have an incentive now. We have the TIA, which is great, right? It is great, but it's still subjective. Mm-hmm. It's still very subjective. Mm-hmm. It's not black and white. You get a bonus when you meet that number. Yeah. It's not that way for me. If I have a great class and I have a good group of kids that year and they are, I have zero classroom management issues, but, 45% of them are not great testers. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get it.
Or 45% of them don't care and have told it doesn't matter, and they take 15 minutes and pick C on all the questions on their state test. Like, you could have taught all the content perfectly, just amazingly, but these kids just don't care. Like, you can't force that,
right? And then you it's just so it's not a black and white issue. Mm-hmm. And so when we get into the weeds of like looking at like how are you going to fix the issue, if you went into the teachers and said, hey guys, we're going to give everybody a $10,000 a year raise, everybody across the board, first off, that's going to make a lot of people real happy. Mm-hmm. And people are going to stay. Okay. Now, is that going to cause some people to come into the industry that don't belong there? Yes, just like with every industry. But then you give the people the ability, the leaders of the campuses, the ability to remove those people mm-hmm. and put them in positions where they can succeed. It just seems like just a total, I don't want to go a slap in the face because that's not what it is, but it's just not enough right now.
And I think that one thing that I am good at when we have this topic, I toot my horn, is comparing what happens in the education world to the corporate world. And so like pulling the curtain back a little bit on testing. For me, my clients are also incentivized for me to do a good job.
Right.
So I can go, so you say like, well, you try to make that apples and apples, and it's really not, because the kids are not incentivized to do well on that test. But for me, my clients are incentivized for me to deliver them a great product. Like, they want the great product. They want to give me what I need to be able to provide them with a great product, because they need that great product at the end of the day.
Right.
So when I come out and perform above and beyond and provide them a great product that they are happy with, then we retain their business. They tell other people in their same industry, hey, Clint did this for me. It was amazing. I gain new clients. My partners see that at the firm, and I rise. And also, like, a tide brings up all boats. So, like, people who are doing that in the corporate world get rewarded for it because the person on the other side is incentivized to take that good product. For a teacher, they can provide an excellent product that they are creating in their job, but the person receiving that product is not incentivized to also do their part.
I think the argument would be is they get to graduate. That's the reward.
Yeah, but don't they get other opportunities?
Yes.
So, and do those opportunities come back and?
No.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So they know. So it's like, to bring this back home, I'm trying to explain to my kid like why she cannot keep skipping class. It's not real bad, but like it's getting on up there. I'm like, you're going to have to do summer school. Like, if you keep like just not doing whatever. And so she's fixed it, but we had that conversation, but it's like almost that, like, if you don't have teenagers, like,
I know
their motivation is sometimes not present whatsoever, and there's literally nothing you can do to get it there.
You know, like
I've tried everything.
Like I'm hopeful this year. Like I have a really good group of kids, and like if my math is mathing, I should be okay this year.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I have a good group of kids. I've built a relationship with them, and I've done a good job of making sure they received all the material that is necessary for them to succeed. Okay? But they also like me.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a skill in itself.
Yeah.
But you can't measure that.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't measure whether or not a group of students likes this teacher. And so I have been a part of, like, I've had this happen to me where the class just didn't like me.
Yeah.
And I have to be a jerk to them.
Yeah.
And therefore, when it comes down to that time, they're going to do what they're going to do.
Right.
Well, I don't really care about Coach Smith. He's just kind of a jerk sometimes. So, it is today.
Yeah. And they also, like, my wife is very likable with her classes. She, anytime we're at a football game, has tons of students.
Same.
She teaches 8th grade. And like, so she'll have juniors and seniors. She had them 4 years ago. She has juniors and seniors that, you know, do sports and will pick her as their 8th grade teacher.
Right.
They had 4 years ago to come do the walkout they have an educator night and a senior night, that kind of thing. So definitely that, but also her test is the day after the science test. It's like you had all these kids who just took a science test, pretty difficult. And then the next day they're having to come take her test. And like some of them, even if they like her or not, they're just going to be like, I'm just tired. Like I got this plus my everything else going on in my life, and I'm not going to give that full effort. And you're being judged by what kids are doing. Like,
and there's a lot of money on the line.
Yeah.
Well, when I taught 8th grade, it was the 4th test of the week. So we would test Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the social studies test would be on Thursday. It was because the state had a 2-week window.
Yeah.
And now that's changed a little bit. So the Twitch
that.
asks, should the rules of the system be changed to where more kids fall in a risk of being held back? Well, you can't do that because of No Child Left Behind.
Right.
So you can only do that so many times. And
I
then,
think there is an answer there to find a different way to incentivize them. And I'm not talking about an ice cream party. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not in education, but like,
I don't have an answer for
if there
you.
was a different way to incentivize them to like passing this test on the first try and really giving an effort is going to get you this, then I think that could make a difference.
To me, high schoolers, if you pass the STAR test and we get the results back, you don't have to come the month of May.
Yeah. I was thinking about that.
I mean, I cannot tell you how many kids that would help.
Because my wife just gave her test this past week, and then I always joke, I'm like, well, what are you going to teach for like the next 6 weeks of school?
Well,
know?
yeah, I mean,
but I mean, there is things that got to be taught. You got to prepare them for, but they don't touch her subject again until 11th grade,
right?
3 years later.
So it's just one of those things, though. Like there's very minimal, and that all goes back to the state too, because you have to have those kids in the classroom for so many hours. But then the state sets the dates and the weeks. Now there's a bigger window than what we've ever had. They've really expanded that after COVID. I think it's 4 weeks now you can give it, but that's up to the district too. You know, you don't want to wait till the last week because what if we have a storm and the electricity goes out? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so there's a lot of variables that play into that. And most of the time, you don't hold a kid back in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
You can, but it's not, you know, the data shows that pretty much past 4th grade, you shouldn't do that because there's a lot of other harmful effects that go into that. And, you know, like when I was at Sulphur Springs, we would hold kids back in 8th grade, like regularly hold kids back. And you saw detrimental. It was detrimental to them. But it wasn't always all their fault, and it wasn't the district's fault. They just fell behind, and they needed to redo it. And they didn't come in the summer to retake their exams. And just like what you were saying, you know, it's one of those things too, to where there's no easy, clear answer. And we still have quite a bit of session left. Yeah. And I think it'll go to committee this week. The Senate will probably pass it, then it'll go back and then they'll kind of work on the amendments.
Yeah. We'll see. I think it's going to go quick.
I think so too.
I don't know that. I think that any amendment that gets allowed, especially now coming back from the Senate, they are going to really judge on the fact of how quickly they can get it through consolidation.
Yeah.
And done.
I hope they add the 26 to it because that incentive of the pay is significantly higher than what's in House Bill 2. That is a significant increase in pay, and it rewards the teachers who have stuck with the with the fight. I mean, it really incentivizes those 10 to 15 year veteran teachers who are needed.
And like, just to draw the line and complete the thought, like, you're going to have to do that if you're going to also say we're going to reduce non-certified teachers down to below 5%.
I don't know if they really realize. I mean, they see the numbers. The taper report is there, but man, I sure hope that they're looking at that, because we are in trouble.
Yeah.
Like, you think it's bad now? Not only are you telling the districts that they aren't getting to pay the people more, but now you're saying you can't use the long-term sub route. You just
want to have teachers in classrooms. Like,
people will leave in mass exodus.
Yeah.
And then that's an even bigger issue. And I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Right.
It'll be interesting. Anything else going on this week?
No, it's no.
We're busy, man. We got baseball every night this week, and then the fast and furious all the way to graduation. So to close the podcast, the Stars are on a 2-man advantage with 2 minutes left in the second period. Game is tied 2-2.
2-2.
Have a great week.
See ya.